"From this day forward, you're the new member of our household," my mother-in-law said, glaring at me with intensity. "You're at the very bottom of the family hierarchy and responsible for all the chores. Understand?" Her voice was stern, with no room for negotiation. "What? All of them?" I stammered, struggling to process her demand. "Can't you follow simple instructions?" she snapped. "You must have a poor memory." "Yes, I'm sorry," I mumbled, my voice shaky. I desperately looked at my husband for support, but he avoided my gaze, as if he had no part in this. This wasn't the life I had imagined, but I felt something ahead would soon change everything. "My name is Aubrey. A few years ago, when I turned 30, my parents started urging me more and more to settle down. One day, I attended a home party hosted by a friend and met a man there. We clicked unexpectedly and soon began dating. A year and a half later, we married. Looking back, I regret not giving marriage more thought. I rushed into it, trying to ease my parents' worries. My mother, always anxious, called me almost weekly, fearing I'd be alone forever. When I finally told her I was getting married, she wept with joy. My husband, Hector, was a good average man. We got along well with no major arguments, so when he proposed, I said yes right away. After our wedding plans were set, one day while having dinner, Hector surprised me. "Actually, I've been thinking about my parents," he said. "Being the oldest son, I'd like to live with them, if possible." "Wait, live together?" I asked, surprised by his sudden suggestion. "Yes," he confirmed. "I think it's important to take care of them." I was taken aback that Hector, who hadn't mentioned his family much before, cared so much about them. Living with your in-laws after marriage is quite common, or so I thought. So without giving it too much thought, I agreed. We moved into his parents' house right after our wedding. On the first day we lived together, I nervously arrived at my in-laws' home with Hector. I'd met his parents during the wedding preparations, but living together was a new and intimidating step. I thought everything would be fine. We'd share chores, and I feel welcome. But reality hit me hard as soon as we arrived. "I'm relying on you from now on," my mother-in-law said sternly at the entrance. "You're the newcomer here. You're at the bottom of the totem pole and are in charge of all the household chores." "Got it?" "What?" "All of them," I stammered, overwhelmed. "Can't you understand simple instructions?" she snapped. "You must have a bad memory." "Yes, I'm sorry," I muttered, panicking. I turned to Hector, hoping for support, but he avoided my gaze. Before the wedding, he'd reassured me that since his parents were healthy, I wouldn't need to worry much about the housework. This felt like a nightmare. I asked Hector when we went to our room. "What's going on?" "I've been told to do all the chores." "You promised I wouldn't have to worry about them." I asked, frustrated. "Huh? Did I say that?" He feigned confusion. "You did." I insisted. "As the eldest son's wife, you're supposed to help with the chores." He waved it off. "We're living here, so don't complain." I couldn't believe it. Hector wasn't going to back me up. He didn't care. And so began my exhausting life of living with my in-laws. From dawn to dusk, I was responsible for all the chores. Fortunately, I worked during the day, so I wasn't home then, but mornings, evenings, and weekends were endless rounds of tasks at their whim. Nothing was ever good enough. "Why is there still dust here?" my mother-in-law would yell. One morning, I tried to take a bath early, but she stopped me. "Since you're the new member of the family, it's common sense to be the last to take a bath," she scolded. There were nights I couldn't bathe until after midnight. It was unbearable. My in-laws never helped with anything, and neither did Hector. Yet they all found ways to complain. I couldn't keep up with everything, but if I said anything, it would come back on me tenfold. Each day drained me. Despite my best efforts, the complaints never stopped. The exhaustion left me with little energy, and my sister-in-law, whom I had hoped would be my ally, turned out to be just like the rest. "Since you're part of the family now, it's only natural you listen to what your sister says," she said, while regularly taking my personal items without asking. One evening, I confronted Hector about it. "Hey, I think your sister is stealing my cosmetics," I told him. "Seriously? She'd never do that," he dismissed me. "And anyway, she's your sister now, so you should get along with her. Honestly, she already thinks you're difficult and don't contribute enough." His words left me speechless. I realized that nobody was on my side, not even Hector. I felt so alone and trapped. I couldn't bring myself to divorce him, even though part of me longed to escape. My parents were so happy about the marriage, and the thought of hurting them was unbearable. You have a family now. I'm relieved, my mother had said, wiping away tears of joy. Her words echoed in my mind during the toughest moments. Divorce would feel like betrayal, and I couldn't bear it. Then one evening, my sister-in-law announced something unexpected at dinner. I have something to say, she began seriously. I'm getting married. Really? That's amazing, I said, genuinely happy for her. Everyone else, including Hector, cheered with excitement. I joined in, but my sister-in-law coldly dismissed my congratulations. I wasn't talking to you specifically, she said, indifferent. Her lack of warmth didn't bother me. In fact, I was relieved. One less person to deal with in the house meant less trouble for me. The conversation soon shifted to her wedding details, and everyone was eager to discuss the plans. Her wedding went off without a hitch, and after the registration, she moved in with her fiancé. With her gone, my in-laws seemed lonely, but the atmosphere in the house changed. The constant mistreatment I faced lessened, and I felt a sense of relief. I made sure to hide my feelings, not wanting anyone to notice that I was secretly glad she was gone. Over time, I slowly began to regain some mental clarity, and a growing desire to escape my situation started to form. How could I leave this house without breaking my parents' hearts? I spent a lot of time thinking about this. Then I realized something unusual: my husband's increasingly late arrivals home. I'd been so consumed with the household duties forced upon me that I hadn't noticed it before. But now, reflecting on it, it seemed odd. He hadn't been the type to stay late at work before we married, yet recently he'd always come home just before midnight. I vaguely remembered hearing something about it once, but never gave it much thought. Are you working that late? I asked cautiously. None of your business. Just shut up, he replied coldly, barely looking up from his phone. I didn't push further. Even though he was coming home late, I thought it was no big deal, or at least that's what I convinced myself. But curiosity gnawed at me, so on my day off, I told my mother-in-law I was going grocery shopping and instead went to withdraw my savings from the bank. I made my way to a detective agency to investigate. Soon, the results came in. The investigator showed me a photo of my husband with another woman, confirming he was having an affair. The woman was a co-worker of his, and from what the detective gathered, their relationship had started before our marriage. The investigator even played me a recorded conversation they had at a bar. I married my wife so she could take care of my parents. She's doing her job. My husband's voice echoed through the recording. Really? You married her even knowing that? The woman responded. Are you jealous? You're the one I love, he assured her. I felt an overwhelming urge to crumple the photos, but I reminded myself that these were important pieces of evidence, so I managed to keep my composure. It became clear to me then that my husband had been dumping responsibilities on me while enjoying time with his mistress. Determined to take action, I consulted a lawyer on my next day off. That week, my in-laws and husband continued their usual cruel behavior. But this time, I made sure to record every single incident of verbal abuse. After a few days of consulting with the lawyer, an unexpected development occurred. My sister-in-law, who had recently married and moved into her husband's family home, returned to visit, crying. She seemed exhausted and clung to me as she sobbed. As I cleaned, I overheard a conversation between her and my in-laws. To my surprise, my sister-in-law was being blamed by her husband's mother for not doing enough housework. I can't do this anymore, she said, her voice trembling. You're doing fine. Don't complain. Your husband understands, my father-in-law said dismissively. Exactly, my mother-in-law added. Be grateful that he helps at all. They tried to console her, but then my husband spoke up. It's shameful not to protect your wife, sis. You should leave him. Hearing this, I thought to myself, wait, you've got the nerve to say that. And before I knew it, my frustration exploded. Wait a minute. You think you have it bad. After everything you've done to me, now it's coming back to bite you, I said, unable to hold it in. Instantly, my in-laws turned red with rage. Don't make jokes. Who do you think you are, Hector's wife? My father-in-law shouted. Don't you have any empathy? My husband added. You're not even human, my mother-in-law screamed. Despite their anger, my sister-in-law tried to play the victim. How could you? You don't understand my feelings at all, she exclaimed. Oh really? I understand your feelings just fine. I've been bullied by all of you for so long, I snapped back. The old me would have never dared to respond like this, but I couldn't stop myself now. Seriously, have you all realized that what you're doing to me is exactly what your husband's family is doing to you? And you have the nerve to offer empty platitudes. Aren't you ashamed? I said firmly. My mother-in-law shrieked. What are you talking about? You're a failure, and we need to keep you under control. My husband stood up, declaring, I never thought you were like this. I want a divorce. My in-laws smiled, likely thinking I'd be shocked by his words. I'm fine with a divorce, but just know I'll claim my fair share of the assets, I replied calmly. Huh? Fair share of the assets? My husband stammered. I scattered the photos of his infidelity on the table, the evidence of his affair. His face turned pale, and my in-laws looked horrified. So you had an affair before we even got married, didn't you? And you're okay with dumping everything on me while you enjoy your time with her? I said, looking directly at him. My in-laws were speechless. The truth had hit them hard. My mother-in-law muttered, Hector, this can't be true, right? It's all a lie, isn't it? They were in shock, unable to process the fact that their son had married me just to avoid caring for them. My mother-in-law's face drained of color, and she lowered her head. As for the divorce, my lawyer will give you further instructions. Please follow them, I said firmly before walking out, leaving my in-laws behind. From that moment on, things fell into place. With the evidence of my husband's affair, the recordings of my in-laws' verbal abuse, and my lawyer's guidance, the divorce went smoothly. My husband's affair was exposed, and it led to a divorce between the other woman and her husband as well. Her husband even demanded compensation, and my husband had to take out loans to pay it. The affair became public at my husband's workplace, and he was mocked by his colleagues. Unable to handle the shame, he resigned from his job. Meanwhile, I quietly returned to my parents' house. They were surprised at first, but when I explained everything, they hugged me tightly, tears in their eyes. It's our fault. We should have noticed what you were going through. We're so sorry, they said, apologizing through tears. At that moment, I knew everything had come to an end, and I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. Tears streamed down my face as I finally felt free. From that day forward, I stayed with my parents, commuting to work, and I successfully transferred to a new department. Life became peaceful, and I realized that despite my regrets over not acting sooner, I had found peace through my own strength. Now I live each day without regrets, cherishing my freedom and the lessons I've learned. Thanks for watching. See you again in the next video. Stay stunned.